Right. There we go. So, how was the writing process for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it easy?
The writing process for me, Amira, was a no, I wouldn't say it was easy because we had a fairly short time frame to turn it around. And for me, what happened is that I got nothing for most of that period. Like it, and I kept on asking, it's like the guides, like, give me some sort of framework, give me how this is going to fit together, like, show me the picture of how it's all going to roll out. And it was like moving pieces, and I couldn't figure out how it was going to go together. And then I was starting to get that nervousness. It's like the due date's coming, and I haven't got stuff on the page. And then the guide said to me, "You're weaving it. You're weaving it in the night. You're weaving it with every thought that you have. Trust the process. That all of a sudden the framework is going to come together. It's going to snap, and then it's going to come out." And that's exactly what happened. Once I had the thread, the line of how the chapter was going to go, then it was a pretty easy process. It was then just finding the right examples or the right stories that I wanted to tell, and then how I wanted that to support people in their own awakening journey and deepening to further contact.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different, process that they go through when they're writing. For some, it's like, oh, in a day, I downloaded everything and I just got it on paper. And for others, like you, it takes a little bit longer. For me, when I did the Ways to God book, I did a chapter in there. It also took me a while. I only did like sat down and got the bulk of the writing done, I think 2 or 3 days before the due date. So because I couldn't, I was just so distracted with all the other things that needed to get done, for the book and other things that I had going on. I couldn't focus. And so I was like, okay, just gonna sit down and see what comes. And over the next 2 days after that, it just came out. So I get it. I get it. And it's different, it changes from time to time. But did you enjoy it? Was it fun?
Oh my goodness, yes. It
Yeah.
was so fun. And as I started to write it, I then began to see the threads of what there will be more that comes. There's a lot more to share. There's a lot more that is beginning to co-create and thread together. And I don't even know what it looks like, but I know the same weaving process, but it feels a bigger and more exciting. So I think this was a beautiful entrance, being the first official, chapter of a book. This was an exciting process, and I think it was the key to unlocking something further for me. So I'm excited for the book to be released, and I'm also excited for further writing journeys that will come and other creations that'll come because I said yes to this.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love hearing that.
Mhm.
I love it when you guys say, this opened up something in me and I want to continue writing and there's more to come and it feels bigger because it really is. And sometimes, if you always thought about maybe I want to publish something, I want to contribute to um this mass scale of awakening in some kind of way that is going to be meaningful or that's going to be long lasting, or and you have this big idea, it feels too big sometimes to execute on your own. And then you just kind of like leave it on the sidelines and just say, oh, one day, when the time is right. And then something like a project where you are a piece of it and it's not that overwhelming anymore. It's the perfect stepping stones because now you see, oh, it's not that difficult to write. Oh, it's not that difficult to do this. And it's easier now, and you can see how it comes together. So that is so exciting for me. I love it.
Although I must say, Amira, other people who've been a part that I know who've been a part of collaborative book processes, they've done it over a large span of time. And you had a very, very tight schedule as to how we were going to do this in terms of, like, I think it was like a month of writing process or maybe 6 weeks of writing, but 4 months total
Yeah,
between from the time we started until like it's going
yeah,
live to the world, where other people have done it over almost a year.
yeah.
And you know something? I'm so grateful for you for keeping it tight, condensed, and focused because I know that I would still be fiddling with it. I would still be working with it. I would have it pulled apart, put back together. So I think there's something to be said about trusting the process and just allowing it to happen, and then allow the creation itself
Yeah,
to weave it all together in imperfect ways, with obviously our on the ground help.
yeah, 100%. And there's kind of like a sweet spot, between finding schedule and a timeline that works for everyone involved, because there's a lot of people involved, number one, that you need to consider. And number two, keeping everyone in a place where they can remain excited and engaged. Because if we stretch it out too long, we can stretch it out 6 months, 8 months, but is it really necessary to get what we need to get done? And sometimes that can fizzle out what we're actually trying to do. Like you say, you're going to keep writing and rewriting and changing things and moving things around. And sometimes the things that want to come through, they want to come through. But when you have too much time to think and second guess, you change too much of what needs to be happening, in the background, things that we are not actually involved in, that we are just vessels for. So this is sweet spot. And I find that it's usually around 4 months. And firstly, it works out because everybody knows, okay, this is the timeline, here are my deadlines, need to get these things done. And it's not like, the schedules are so tight. Like 6 weeks for writing is actually a pretty long time if you only have to write 5,000 words, you
I
know.
know, I know. But for me, I needed that space just to allow the creation to create, the
Yeah,
weaving to happen. And I don't think I could have, well, it would have, if that had been the design, then it would have happened a different way,
yeah,
but that wasn't. And so I think it filled into the space that was allowed.
yeah. Yeah, and it's always fun. It's always exciting. I'm busy with the formatting now, so I'm seeing how it's all coming together. I'm looking at all the chapters and all of the different things everyone has to say and how it fits together. So it's very exciting to see it come together. And I actually wanted to send you guys a snapshot of the manuscript today, but there's still a few bits and pieces coming in. Some of you guys are still sending in your little last minute things. So I wanted to give that some time, but I'm very excited for you guys to see this because
I'm
it is
excited to see it.
beautiful. It's so good. It is so good. I cannot tell you, like when I read the first chapter and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm having a hard time deciding what should come next because I can see what the general pattern is that it should take, but it's like every chapter is so unique and so good. I don't know. It's in my hands now to decide the journey I'm going to take the reader on. What do I want them to see next after this? So
Yes.
it's a lot of pressure on me because I want the reader to have a good experience.
Well, I tell you, when I was starting the process with the chapter, I connected in with the energetic field, the chapter, the book creation itself, and trusted. And I got some great wisdom and feedback from the book consciousness. And I would trust that too.
Yeah.
You're not doing this alone. The creation is creating, and allow that, allow like you've done in the past to have it speak to you, and it'll work out perfect.
Yeah.
It'll work
Yeah,
out
I
perfect. But
do have a
I'm in.
I do have a general flow now of what I think the chapters are going to look like. And someone sent me in some last minute channeled messages that they got from Yeshua about open contact. And they were like, I hope it's not too late. I wanted to send you this if you could just add it into the book. And I'm like, okay, perfect timing. So there's some additional stuff that is new that wasn't planned for. So there's a lot of exciting things that are coming up now. So yeah, very excited.
Hmm.
Very excited. So what do you think? Do you think in general about your chapter and about this topic? Do you think that what you wrote is an accurate kind of, I don't want to say description, but an accurate representation of how you feel in the moment about all of this? Like how do you what is your final thoughts on what you've created in this book?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, so I'm just going to see what rolls out of my
Yeah.
out of my consciousness. When I think of, like, I would say yes, because for me, like I've shared this on with you before, is this idea of I had to go through my own release of resistance going through this process in terms of the idea of open contact and what that means, because it's not something that I've been engaged with in terms of what society and we deem it in terms of physical, tangible, extraterrestrial beings coming into our awareness or UFOs or that type of thing. For me, the experience, and the reason I feel it's true, my chapter is true, is because it's my experience. It's the awakening process that I went through. It's the experience I've had with interdimensional beings. It's my some physical, tangible, more real experiences that I've had with Yogananda in his meditation gardens. It's an expanse, as well as the unraveling that I had to do in order to be open and receptive to the whole spectrum. Because my guides talked to me and they said, really, open contact in a very physical, tangible way for the majority of people comes after this whole preparation of awakening. It's beginning to understand yourself as a divine being of light, as massive, as something beyond who we have ever thought we are as a physical human embodied. And it's everything that we do along that journey of releasing the masks, the distortions of who we're not, but we've always thought we are. And so the chapter is a reflective of that journey of opening, that with my intention really was to activate in others a reflection and the codes within them so that they can see themselves within my story, within my experience, and giving them some of the tips, right, to that I've used and integrated in order to allow this process to be the most joyful, expansive process, to be able to release the fears that came up. And there was a whole other layer of fear that came up for me through the writing process that I didn't even know I had. And so it's been really interesting for me, but I also know that it's not the end, that where I stand now is where I am on the spectrum, preparing me for open contact. And that's the point of the book. This is a preparation. So no matter where you are on the spectrum of awakening and going deeper into deeper contact with ourselves, and hence the reflection that ourselves and the collective ourselves, the humanity, have created, it's a journey. And I know, because it's already happening, that level of awakening and connecting with our galactic family, our inner earth family, it's getting so much stronger. And it's something that, and I say it in my chapter, that you don't understand. Like, you can understand it intellectually, but until you have your own experience of all of this, it's just a story. It's what someone else is saying. And you can't, like, for me, I needed to have my own tangible physical experiences in my body, feeling energy in the coincidences and the synchronicities and the channelings, in order to believe it. And I've been questioned, including by my husband, which I talk about in the book, that, like, why do you believe it's true? Right? Why do you believe it's true? And I couldn't point to science, and I couldn't point to anything else that anybody said. There was always an argument. And the only thing I could trust was my own experience of it. It was because I was feeling it. It was because I just knew in my body, in every cell, that it was true. And the experiences kept happening. And so, you sort of throw up your hand and your logic, and you think, that's not who I've been my whole life. I've been very logical. I've been very ground to earth, focused on doing the right thing, the right thing. And and then all of a sudden this all opens up and you're like, holy, like, what's going on here? But it's freaking cool, right? And it feels amazing. And it feels like the most truthful thing that I've experienced. And that's what kept me going. And I said, look at, I've always been curious. I've always been the explorer. Is this going to hurt me? If I continue to explore this thread, am I in danger? Am I doing anything wrong? Am I causing any problems? Am I doing anything? No. Then why wouldn't I continue? Why wouldn't I continue to pull on the thread? Why wouldn't I continue to follow my heart and see what happens? And that's what I've been doing. And that's been the exciting journey, one step at a time, not knowing what's coming next, but being in excited anticipation at just what is the next sort of cool thing, exciting thing, magical thing, loving thing that comes through, because it's been that journey for me. I'm not sure I answered your question, but
Yeah,
there you
I mean,
go.
that's really exciting. It sounds like you've had a big personal journey happen and unfold within while this was taking place, almost like an activation or some kind of catalyst that just activated something within you that is bigger than the book or bigger than your chapter or bigger than what you thought it was going to be. And that's true for a lot of us, actually. The all the conversations I've had with you guys over the last couple of weeks, almost everyone has said there's something bigger going on within me as a result of me either writing or pondering on this topic long enough or channeling specific messages for this chapter that I'm working on or whatever it may be. There's always a personal journey and a personal expansion happening within. And that is exciting. That is so exciting because
Mhm.
each of us are on our own very specific path to what we're doing, even though it might be similar in some senses and there might be some crossover, but it's very specific to who we are and what we are doing and what we've agreed to do and the things we've said we're going to come and accomplish when we came and all the things. So, and I loved what you said about the preparation of it, right? Because I get this feeling like maybe, and it's not a bad thing, whether all of this is going to happen or not, whether we're going to have physical touch, open contact or not, whether all of this is all just our imagination or not. It doesn't, the fact that we are using this as a permission slip to prepare ourselves to be better people in terms of not just, in one sense, but I mean vibrationally, just a more higher vibrational being and to nurture that being and using it almost like a permission slip. Like I need to prepare for this by preparing myself, my vessel, my physical, mental, emotional, spiritual body, by being the best that I can be, by being ready to embody the high vibrational energies that will come in with this so that I can manage it, that I can not be afraid of it, that I can face my fears and deal with my fears before they become manifest, in terms of like something I don't want to deal with. These are things that we should be doing anyway. But it's
Mhm.
like we have a permission slip now, like, oh, there's an
Yeah.
important event that might happen. I need to prepare for it. So it's a good thing, whether it's going to happen or not going to happen or whatever it may be. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah. And I think it's because it's choice.
Yeah.
It's choice. People don't have to do this. People don't have to go into the inner exploration. However, the guides are saying over and over again, if we don't choose to go in ourselves and do the exploration and allow for the process to unfold, that it will come in time, because as everyone else is doing the preparation and the frequency is lifting of the collective humanity, as well as Earth's frequency is lifting, whether we like it or not, like it's lifting. Everyone's impacted by this. Everybody will go through a journey, whether it's in this lifetime or the next one. Everyone's going through this process now on Earth. They're all receiving more light. Our bodies are all receiving it. We are shifting and changing, whether we know it or not. And the messages that have been coming through recently is, we as the ones who are aware of what's going on, aware of the changes, it puts us in a position to really, of responsibility, to anchor that light, to hold the balance that we can, to be the peace, to make the high choices, to not shake hands with fear, so that we can be that hand, that light, that beacon for others who are awakening into a chaos in the world, of turbulence in the world, of their lives potentially falling a bit apart. And yet we've already walked it. We have shared the codes of remembrance. We've shared the codes of how to do it. And that's an important role. And so everyone who is engaging with this book, who's engaging with the process, it's an important one. And I celebrate and I honor every person who has the courage to step forth and say, I know I'm here for something more. I know that there's more to this life. And I know that this is a critical time on the planet that I chose to be here for, even if I don't know what's going on, and even if it can be a little destabilizing or a little scary at times. But this book is important because it helps, like you said, give that permission to slip. It helps activate within people, because I believe it's an activation. I believe the book is a transmission that is going to support people in opening up in perfect ways. And because it is varying viewpoints, even though we haven't seen the chapters of everybody yet together, just knowing the authors that we've been working with over these months, everyone has their own stories, everyone has their own frame of reference, and it does tie in to all the different people and where everyone's at in their past. So everyone will find just that beautiful gem, I think, in the book. It may not all resonate right now, but I suspect that parts of it will, and then others will unfold in time as different experiences come up and you think, oh, I remember that thing in that book. Get ready to hear that preparation. Let me go to the manual and see if there's something in it that's for me right now, right? I think it's going to be one of those books that it may not fully, all of it resonate at one point, but it'll be one that you go back to and think, oh, I remember that bit. I remember that part. And you might even feel that activation in the body.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of my favorite things about this book, too, that each author represents perfectly a sector of humanity and where we are at right now. And it's all perfect and it's all beautiful. And one is not higher or above another. It's all just a beautiful kind of like combination of everyone. And everyone has their own unique perspective and their own unique point of view on this topic. And again, it represents what everyone collectively may be thinking or feeling about this topic in your own respective way. And that's why it's so special, because when you look at it, like you say, you might not resonate with everything right away. You might be like, oh, where I'm at right now, I think chapter 2 is how I feel. I think that is more where I'm at. And as you maybe feel the call to discover more or read more or research more, or I don't know, dive deeper into your own practice more, you'll open up other parts of you and then you'll resonate with more and more. Maybe you won't, but that's fine too. It's about an exploration. It's not so much saying this is what we think and this is all set in stone and this is what's going to be. It's an exploration, it's an invitation for you to open up and say, what do I think, what do I believe, what is holding me back, how can I discover more about myself, more so than about other beings. And I said this to, I'm not sure who I said it to, one in the week last week. We were talking about the topic and I said, this book, the theme that kept coming up in my mind over and over was this idea of love your neighbor and loving yourself and understanding who we are and accepting unconditionally and loving unconditionally ourselves and our neighbors. Because how are you going to be ready to face and unconditionally love a being that is so vastly different than you are when you are already having issues with your actual neighbor? Like, we need to look at these things and honestly have a discussion and conversation with ourselves and say, where am I? Where am I at on the scale of unconditional love and acceptance? Where am I? We're not saying that overnight you need to go from not accepting anything and anyone to just embracing everything, but looking at it honestly and saying, if I honestly want to change and if I honestly want to elevate myself in my experience, these are the things that are holding me back. And I want to be in a position where I can lovingly accept myself for where I am and look forward to where I'm going. It's not an either or, it's a both. It's a combination kind of thing. It's an inclusive thing rather than exclusive and leaving things out.
Yeah, 100%, Amira. And what came to mind as you were speaking is I speak to the stranger danger program. We're always taught as kids to be beware of the stranger, don't accept things, like all of that programming. And through this process and through my own experience, through this awakening process, is that we've been so ingrained and we all have biases based on our upbringings, our culture, our religions, our all of it, all of the patterns that we have and structures that showed me where I naturally have a fear that a game was running beneath the program on. I have an idea of what benevolent beings are, right? And so when I'm working, I do a lot of dream work activity, and how they showed up originally. They're glowing beings of light. They're angels. They're all of these things. Well, or they're Merlin. They're beings that I would recognize and know that check good, good. And then all of a sudden, I'm being supported, and it's more like dragon looking, or they're more, and it's like and I could feel in my body, this is this safe, is this true, is am I, and then I was asked, it's like, well, why do you feel fear, why are you afraid? And it was like, oh, it's because it looks different than I think it should. And why do I believe that? Well, because I was taught what's good, what's supposed to look good, what's the person you can trust or not trust. And then this brought me all the way back to how we've been raised. And that's where it's been so critical for me in my journey, is around feeling it and knowing it. There's just times where, and I think this is where everyone's superpower is in our knowing, right? We all pick up, we're opening up to different senses. We have, whether it's where we hear it or we see it or we feel it, but to just simply know it is so critical. And because then all of a sudden you aren't trusting what the eyes share. And I think as we get into more AI, you get more into these false creations that look so real. There's an underlying energy thread. And so I've thanked my guides on numerous occasions to say or soul even, to say, I'm really glad that I felt, because I've been trained on how to feel the distinction, how to discern it, versus using what I've been taught by my looks to say, oh, that person looks different from me, then I should be afraid of them. That person speaks different than me, or talks different than me, does different things than me, has different rituals than me. I should be afraid because they're different. And I think that's part of what you were talking about, is we have to, as a humanity, begin to realize that we're all connected, that we're all fundamentally the same. And just because someone does something different isn't a reason to fall into fear. And that's just the basic what we are getting to, in order to, how do you then deal with beings that, like you said, don't look anything like us? If we can't even look at a neighbor who's a human also, right? And then the other thing I just wanted to sort of, it goes back to what you were saying before about our book, is what I think is so important for every person is that there is no one way, that everybody is a unique puzzle piece who came here with very specific skills, very specific ways of opening and seeing. And so the same way I've used, like Jane Roberts and the Seth material as a training ground, one of the first channeled works that I worked with, that began to show me what's possible. And then our guides use everything that we know, everything that has meaning to us. They utilize it in order to help provide us the guidance to move forward. And so I view all of the stories, all of the ways that others have opened up, how they've seen, how they've experienced. Those are beautiful gifts for people, because then when something happens, it says, oh, I understand, this is a way that I'm being communicated with, this is the way I'm being engaged with. And it just provides a possibility, because until something's a potential, it can't manifest. And so we don't even know what it means to be connected by our spirit. So it helps for others to share, for us to share together and say, well, this is how I experience it. oh, well, this is what I experienced. And it's like, oh, well, I have experienced something separate, something like similar to that. And then you then begin your whole exploration process, and that leads you to the next step and the next step. Does that make sense?
100%. And I love what you said about, the whole danger thing. Different is dangerous. And the thing with that is a very destructive and actually dangerous mentality to have, because different is not necessarily dangerous. It's just like you say, our conditioning and what we've been taught and the things that we need to now look at and be like, okay, I don't need this belief system anymore. It's not working for me right now. I'm gonna just, chuck it to the side for the minute and, deal with that. And I'm not saying that you should be totally open to everything either, but coming with the whole thing with expansion and learning about yourself is developing the tools built in you, such as your intuition and your discernment, and that,
Discernment.
yeah, that feeling that you get when you know something is in a good direction or a bad direction. And I'm not placing judgment on good or bad. I'm just saying, in terms of preference, do I prefer this experience right now or that one? And
Mm-hmm.
using that discernment, it's a muscle. Discernment is not something that we all have naturally, because it's kind of been bred out of us, if I can say that, with all of the weird, I don't know, kind of things that we've learned growing up. It got very confusing over time. What can I trust and what should I trust, and this and that.
100%.
So we need to learn it again, and we need to practice it again, and we need to strengthen those muscles again. And that only happens when you are actively in your process and actively on your path and being like, okay, I'm going to use every opportunity I get to practice my intuition, to practice,
Yes.
because there's so
Ameera,
many
yes.
moments. There's so
Yes.
many moments in a day where you can do that. I like to, like, even just use my intuition to predict things, predict silly things, um, things that are just so mundane or meaningless, that have
Should I
nothing
go
to even,
this?
yeah,
Should I take this route or this route? Which one feels
yeah,
better to me? And then did it
yes,
work out? And then practice
yes,
it again. 100% Ameera.
yeah.
People, we get to practice, and that's the preparation. That's part of the preparation, building our discernment with small things so that when we get to bigger things, we've got it down pat. We understand what it feels like in our body. Do I feel like, I don't know, eggs or cereal? Do I feel like it doesn't matter. It's beginning to practice with your intuition so that you are well aware of how your body responds, how your energy responds, and even if you're not aware of it, just that intuitive hit, that gut hunch, that. And I think, I hear lots of stories. I'm not a mother in this lifetime, but I hear people like, well, I just know that my child is needing me right now, or I just know that they're in trouble, or I just know that that happened. And then, right, like, trust, begin to pay attention to those little hits that you're already getting, but you're just brushing them off as, oh, coincidence, or, oh, or you just don't pay attention to them at all. It's just so natural to you. It's beginning to bring a spotlight to say, oh, I'm actually already doing a lot of this. I'm already connected, but it's so natural to me that I'm not recognizing it. And then you begin to open up to different ways that you're also working with the energies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just yesterday, I had a discussion with my husband. I was telling him, so he was like, "Hey, how was your day? What were you doing today?" And I was saying I did something so silly today. Um, it kind of like I kind of shot myself in the foot because I didn't listen to my intuition. And he's like, "What happened?" And it was kind of like a work related thing. I had a feeling that I should go in a different direction with a specific vendor that I was using for work that I was getting done. And in the moment when I was having the conversation with that person, I knew that I should have paused and said, you know what, I'm going to get back to you on this thing. But instead, I made a decision right away and I said, this is what we're going to do. And I committed to that decision. And later on, it revealed that that was not the right decision that I should have made, because I was kind of the loser in that situation. But I only found that out after the fact. So I said to him, I had the gut feeling that I should have paused and I should have waited and said, I'll get back to you, but I didn't. And now I have to take a loss for this thing. And he's like, you know what? If you ever feel bad about decisions you've made, just think about me and all the things I've done. Because I haven't listened to my intuition for the bulk of my life. And, there's so many things. So it's not that big of a deal. Now you know. And I said, it is so because I could have dwell on that forever. And I could have beat myself on that forever. But it's so true, even if you make a wrong decision, it's not necessarily a wrong
No.
decision. There's a learning there. You've learned
One.
something, you've understood something different, you experience something different, and now you know. And if you do a different decision next time that is also not going to work out for you, it's still, it's never at a point where, okay, this decision deserves me beating myself up about for 10 years. Like, there's never going to be a decision like
No.
that. It doesn't matter what it is. And I think the more that we can accept that, we are expanding and we are growing through moments by moments, decisions by decisions, conversations by conversations. All of these things are just stepping stones to bigger things that we don't know yet is coming. And if we're going
Mhm.
to judge ourselves by tiny little moments in a big picture, you're missing the whole point, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah. And it's just fascinating for me, the whole thing,
Yeah.
everything, the topic, what other people believe about it. Even like explaining, you were saying earlier, your husband was like, why do you believe this stuff? I had a similar conversation with my brother a few months ago. He was like, oh, what are you working on? And I said, oh, I've got some stuff planned and this is one of the books coming. And he's like, how do you know? Like, you were so convinced and so confident. And I said, I don't want to get into that conversation with you right now. It's so big, but I know. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, he just, so there's so many different perspectives. And I love that he just doesn't care about it because that's where he's at. And he's so unapologetic about, I don't care about this. I have other things to do and I have a family that I need to care for right now. Like, I don't care. Whatever. Do what you want to do. You know, it's just so, I love it. I love everything about it. And even our conversations that we have as a group and the differences in opinions and how we can come together and say, wow, I see your difference in opinion. I respect that. I understand that. I love how you think this way and I think that way. Yet we can still come together and collaborate, or we can come together and look at all the other things surrounding this topic that work together, even though we have differences or overlaps in our opinions. So it's so diverse. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that we're each, because to me, this is an unfolding story. It's like a flower in bloom that we're seeing the petal, but we're not necessarily seeing the flower, but each one of our petals begins to create the broader picture. And so when I think of all of our authors, it all comes down to each person's experience. And you cannot tell anybody what their experience is. And you can't tell them it's wrong because it's their experience, it's what they're feeling and going through. But I think what happens over time is that you hear what someone else is going through and it gives you a different perspective. And if you're open to it and you're curious and you wonder, it's like, I wonder, how does that fit in with what I believe? And as long as we're open to being flexible about what's happening, because I think you even read back some books that came years ago about the story of earth and creation and all, whatever book you're reading, and you sort of say, but it doesn't quite resonate, not all of it. This sounds true, this one feels good, this one doesn't. But I think we're all opening and experiencing it exactly as we need to, because I'm even from my own example, as from through this experience, I think in a lot of ways I was sheltered from a lot of experience in this lifetime on purpose, like until 2 weeks ago. I mean, like, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I think there's some more to this story. And I do believe it came from some of the codes, some of the stuff from our group from our group chats. And I believe that it also had to do with, I'm not even a big astrology person, but everyone's talking about it's, like Saturn and Uranus and Neptune and everyone colliding at zero to, I don't even know what it all is, but I just know that it's like something happened around the 16th, the 18th of July of this year. And it was like, whoosh, because now it's experiencing like bleed throughs from other lifetimes and dimensions and how they're all interconnected. And it really is bringing home for me this idea and the knowing that everything is happening now, past, present, future. We're just experiencing it linearly, right? And it has just become so clear. It's like, oh, this is why I feel this way in this circumstance that didn't make sense to me. Oh, now I'm understanding more about myself because I'm seeing how it's playing out in other times and spaces, and how people I'm in this world, like in this reality, with why it's why I maybe respond to them in a different way, or why how we've played in other lifetimes together. And it's all just, this is unraveling. So this is in the process, which is why I know that there's more to come. When back to, I think, your first question on, am I happy with the chapter where it is? Yes, because that's the chapter that needed to be shared right now. But do I think that there's another chapter or another book? Yeah, because it's changing and shifting and opening, and it's magical and
Yeah.
wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
never ending and forever evolving. And
Yes.
that's actually one of the reasons why people will continue writing for 5, 10, 15 years and never get their books or whatever writing published. It's because you keep changing and evolving as you are writing. And then you read back what you've written and you're like, oh, this needs to change and evolve again. And you change it. And then you've changed and evolved in that changing. And then you
Yeah.
want to change it again. And you keep doing that. It's literally a cycle that continues and continues until you say, wait a minute, what is going on? I can never stop. I'm not done. It can never be done because it can never be done. It will never be done. You need to get to a point where it's like, this is what it needs to be for this moment, and I will in the next moment work on the next evolution of this, or the
Yes.
next whatever is to come of this. So again, and a
And I
topic
think
that
that's,
continues. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but it just reminds me of, like, this is why we have sequels to movies. This
Yeah.
is why Star Wars has multiple parts. This is why, because it's evolving. And so I think you just draw a line in the sand and you say, okay, this is the book we need for right now, based on the consciousness we're at right now. And then as we see more, as we experience more, then that to be where we're at, know that it's exactly perfect, and that in the next moment when we learn something different, experience something different, that are we're okay to change our perspective.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't have to have this perspective and then always remain and have that be our belief,
Oh, yeah.
because we're learning, we're exploring, we're expanding, we're being exposed to new information and new energies. And so it's okay to change, and it's not being about being right or wrong. It's about, where was I and how have I evolved, and where am I now, and where am I at now?
Yeah, it's more than okay to change. It's actually what is required of you, to remain evolving, because that is what evolving is. Evolution is about change and being open to it, not being afraid of change, and looking at something and saying, you know what, I don't need to just accept this because this is what someone said, or I don't need to just reject this because that's what somebody said. It's looking at things and being like, how do I honestly feel about it, and am I open, or can I remain open until I receive more information to then change my opinion or look at things in a different perspective, and being open to doing that, without that judgment of, I believed this all my life, so I have to stick to it. How dare I change my opinion now? I don't want to upset people who've taught me this belief system, that is a
Yeah.
very old fashioned, dangerous way of thinking. We would
Yeah.
remain like unevolved. We would remain stagnant as a species, as humanity, if we were thinking like that, you know? So I'm very happy a lot of us don't think like that anymore.
Yeah.
There are still a lot that do, but they'll catch up, you know, when it's their time. And yeah, it's good either way.
And the guides share now more than ever to hold our beliefs, to hold what we think and feel just lightly. Just hold it. Don't hold on to it anymore, like where we would hold on to these beliefs like, what do I know now? Oh, I'm just going to lightly hold on to it so that if it doesn't make sense anymore, it's not as ingrained. It's not like, I think that's just the sort of metaphor for don't totally like take it in as this is my new stance and I'm going to, it's like, that's curious. This makes sense to me. Now I'm going to move to the next one. And if it needs to go, it can just sort of blow
Yes.
away easily versus holding on really tightly to
Oh,
it.
yeah. That's
And
a beautiful analogy. Because, like you say, if you're just lightly holding on to something, you can lovingly let it go and you can lovingly just grab onto something else and look at it and analyze it and let it go if you want without that feeling of it's almost like an anxious attachment to something. I have to hold on to this thing because without it, I don't know my identity or I don't know something else. You know, I don't know how deep it goes for some people. I'm just using that as an
yeah.
example.
And I
But
think that's all fear, right? Like that's
yeah,
all our need to hold on to it, our need to attach it, our need to have a foundational structure is all based in the frequency of fear that we've been living in on this planet for now thousands of years. And that's what's shifting. And so all the teachings of my guides and the teams and the beings that I work with, it's all coming down to releasing the fear in all of its faces. Like it's pretty much, it shows up in every way, in all of the ways. And as we lift in frequency, the fear can't hold the sphere, the beliefs, the structures that are limiting us, are distorting our perspectives, our masks that we've wear to keep ourselves safe are falling off. And that's disorienting for people. That can stabilize us. And that we have a choice at that point to grab on, hold on to our beliefs, hold on to the structures that we've had. Like the image they always give me is like, there's a palm tree and you're like grabbing onto the palm tree and your body's flowing out the side, right? Like the wind is blowing, the storm's trying to have you change and go somewhere else, and you're holding on. At some point, you get carried away.
yeah.
Oh, and then you're taken actually to exactly where you needed to be, but you made
Yeah.
it hard for yourself.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I could speak about this with you forever. I really could. But I think the book, you know, it needs to be read. You need to read it to fully understand this topic from multiple perspectives in different ways so that you can see what we are saying. It's not just, and like you said earlier, you know, words don't teach, it's only experience that teaches. And maybe there's an activation in here for someone where they can have their own experiences that they can learn from and be guided from, you know. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited for this book. I will be putting all the links for all the things in the description.
Yeah.
And I thank
Awesome.
you, Joanne. Thank you so
And as a bit,
much.
there is a bit, and I know that people are probably including a lot, but I did just include from the Galactic Federation of Light a small activation on our remembrance and a beautiful little activation at the end for people in the chapter. So I
Wonderful.
hope that it does just that, opens them up to
Yeah.
open heart, open mind, and full preparation to be walked in the most beautiful, joyful, magical, highest way possible.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you. I had a wonderful time chatting with you today, and I look
Yes.
forward to speaking to you soon.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.